Good morning, everyone. Please take your seats. We are about to begin the ceremony with the academic procession. First to enter will be graduating students bearing gonfalons. Those are vertical flags that bear the Tulane University shield on a field of color specific to one of our schools. Use of the gonfalon as a ceremonial banner dates back to Italy in the 1500s. The students will come into the dome from 6 separate entrances. Bearing the gonfalons today are Chloe Boudreau of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Julienne Bourgeois of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Lindsay Crone of Fairhope, Alabama, Kenzie Habercorn of Highlands Ranch, Colorado, Yash Kukreja of New Orleans, Louisiana, Claire Kramer of Edina, Minnesota, Megan Lee of Southlake, Texas, Helen Marsh of New Orleans, Louisiana, Paige Pearson of Santa Cruz, California, Austin Rose of Lake Charles, Louisiana, and David Woodside of Newark, Delaware. More than 3,000 students from Tulane's 10 schools will now be entering the floor from 6 different entrances. The first group will be the undergraduates of Newcomb Tulane College. There are over 1,500 undergraduates from the schools of architecture, business, liberal arts, public health and tropical medicine, and science and engineering. Another group of more than 150 undergraduates are here today from the School of Professional Advancement. Nearly 1,500 graduate and professional students will receive advanced degrees today. These students are from architecture, business, law, liberal arts, medicine, public health and tropical medicine, science and engineering, and social work. The 2019 graduating class is 56% female and 44% male. More than 1,500, or roughly 52% of the class, are receiving bachelor's degrees. The others are receiving advanced graduate and professional degrees. And they come from all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and 64 foreign countries. And now, please welcome the Tulane faculty. They are being led into the arena by Lucas Clark of Columbia, South Carolina, carrying a gonfalon that bears the university's colors, olive green and sky blue. Led now by Professor Michael Hogue, carrying the university mace, the platform party will enter behind the green gonfalon, emblazoned with the seal from the official Tulane crest borne by Angel Carter of Lithonia, Georgia. The president of the university marches at the very end of the procession, attired in the Tulane ceremonial robe and wearing the silver chain of office. Please rise.
On the roll! Right, march! Please be seated.
the Chair of the Tulane Board of Administrators, Douglas Hertz.
Good morning, Tulane. On behalf of the Board of Administrators, welcome to the 2019 Tulane University Commencement Ceremony. Today, we formally recognize and celebrate the academic achievements of our graduates. Our hope is that you are better people for having attended Tulane, and that Tulane is a better university because of your attendance. That you are wiser, not just in the world of academia, but in all the ways of the world. That you have received an educational experience with meaning and a degree of currency, and that you plan on reinvesting some of that currency back into Tulane for the benefit of future students. That you have created lifelong memories. You've had meaningful relationships. You've made lifelong friends. That you've explored and experienced and enjoyed the many wonders of New Orleans. And that you've had literally the time of your lives. We hope that you'll stay involved with Tulane and you'll visit New Orleans many times in the years ahead. As chair of the Tulane Board of Administrators, it is now my honor and responsibility to officially begin today's program with these words. Here now in the presence of the candidates for academic recognition, members of the faculty, staff, and administration, alumni, members of the Tulane Board, honored guests, and friends of Tulane University, the commencement for our 185th year is hereby called to order.
Please now rise for our national anthem, performed by Bailey Gabrish of Belcamp, Maryland, and Daniel Shevlin of Bradenton, Florida.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. We are here today to celebrate in words and music the accomplishments of the class of 2019. We begin our program with a musical invocation performed by Dr. Michael White's Original Liberty Jazz Band. Dr. White, an alumnus of Tulane, and recipient of the Tulane President's Medal, is a leading authority on the history of authentic New Orleans jazz. Dr. White? And now, the 15th president of Tulane University, Michael A. Fitz.
Welcome, faculty, staff, friends, family, alumni, and students. It is my honor to present to you the Tulane University class of 2019. Okay, so wouldn't it be funny if that was my whole speech? Thank you, good night. Now, that would be the most talked about commencement in history. I just go back to my chair there, and tomorrow the headline, Fitz sits. So it's great to be here with all of you. It's quite a view from the stage as well. I see everybody dressed in the same cap, everybody dressed in the same gown, and I'm here to tell you how different each person is. Well, I have a way to do that, so bear with me. It starts with this observation. It's impossible to spend 4 years to graduate, or 6 or 7, and that's fine, to graduate with a Tulane experience and not be transformed in a wonderful way. Think about where we are, New Orleans. The history, the music, the food, the culture. It isn't just the city of New Orleans, it's the planet of New Orleans. That's a song. Have you heard it? It's a song by Dire Straits that your parents probably listened to. Now, I won't use my singing voice, but here it is, and I quote, "I'm trying to place a tune under a Louisiana moonbeam on the planet of New Orleans." So that really captures it, don't you think? There's no more poetic, inspiring place to be. I've been the president of Tulane for 5 years. You're my 5th graduating class, and I have to tell you, this event is the high point for me every single year. It truly is the planet of New Orleans for so many reasons. Think of those historic restaurants, maybe places some of you are headed to after this ceremony. Antoine's, which is only 6 years younger than Tulane itself. Galatoire's, where sometimes the wait is 6 years. Al fresco in the courtyard at Commander's Palace. Or the magnificent menu at Bruff. You do know you're the last class to eat at Bruff, right? Another historic achievement for the class and the graduates of 2019. Now, New Orleans and Tulane, that's where you are. But think about where you came from. Urban, rural, suburbs, other nations speaking other languages. We're not just diverse in race and gender, we're diverse in experience and diverse in ideas. We had that kind of student body because we attract a particular kind of person. You chose to be part of an academic community which is quirky and passionate and which, as Walt Whitman said, contains multitudes, just like you. But too often, that's where the discussion ends. What is rarely discussed is what that means when you take this way of living out into the world. This is a university originally founded by physicians combating epidemics in the 19th century. We combine service, research, and academic exploration across 1,700 classes, 70 majors, and 10 different schools. The Tulane academic experience is one of a kind. It has created in each of you a way of looking at the world that makes connections across disciplines, cultures, and experiences. Now, as individuals, that gives you power, but you have another kind of power as well. And let me demonstrate. Now, as you know, the Tulane Commencement is well known as a musical event. I'm not much of a musician, so I'm going to ask for a little help from Dr. Michael White and his band. Now, you with your experiences in education, you by yourself are a note. And you can create a melody. By yourself, you're powerful. But when you attach your note, your uniqueness, to the uniqueness of others, just hear what you can create. From individual sounds, something bigger emerges, something beautiful that would be impossible alone. You may hear that and think that's fine, but doesn't that mean my specialness gets swallowed up into something else? No way, because one change from one person can transform everything. If even one note bends a little bit, the whole thing becomes something else. And someone else makes a change, and then others join in, to make something that no one can create alone. What makes you unique will always come through because you are the product of every experience, every challenge, every triumph, every love, every heartbreak, every victory, every defeat, every friendship, every experience, every intense study session, and every idle hour. Your time at Tulane weaved your education and life experiences together to make you a soul like no other. So you can play your own melody, but you're uniquely prepared to be part of whatever song you choose. Here you stand today, moments from graduating from a university that stood in this fabled city since 1834, when New Orleans itself was barely 100 years old, and the entire population of the city was fewer than the number of people in the Superdome this very minute. So what are you going to remember? I hope you'll remember not just facts, but that here at Tulane, you learned how to learn, how to think, how to grow, how to innovate. As you join with others and connect cultures and disciplines in new ways, as you take on the perpetual challenges of poverty and human rights and systemic diseases and coastal erosion, as you create solutions, I hope you'll remember this. The notes you play alone have value, but it's the chords you join that create the better song, that create the better day for the world you're inheriting. And in the spirit of this day in this city, I hope that for every low note, every serious moment, that you match it with a high note, a moment of joy. I hope to remember not only your studies, but also Crawfest and the bead tree. May it rest in peace. Tailgating on the quad, spring days at the Fly, Mardi Gras, everything. You can bring all that to the world and become part of a magnificent chord, a chord that recalls where you came from in every beautiful way. Dr. White. You know, I think you're onto something. Could you play it one more time? But this time, let's see how one small tweak can change everything. Now that sounds familiar. Class of 2019, play your best song and change the world. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. Each year, one individual is selected to speak on behalf of all graduating students. Today, I am pleased to invite Abby Mbai to the podium. Abby will earn 2 degrees today, a Bachelor of Science in Public Health and a Bachelor of Arts in Africana Studies and English. Please welcome Abby Mbai.
Welcome to faculty, staff, parents, alumni, and most of all, the graduating class of 2019. Also, congratulations to the honorees on the stage. I see you, Congressman Lewis. First, I would like to have a moment of silence to remember the members of our community who should be graduating with us today, but whose time has come too soon. My name is Abby Mbai, and I am honored and humbled to serve as your Class of 2019 Student Commencement Speaker. On this beautiful day, when we are gathered together to celebrate our academic accomplishments, we must take a moment to acknowledge our support systems. Our caregivers, relatives, mentors, professors, classmates, and even ourselves, as we have certainly acted as our own cheerleaders throughout our college careers. As our time at Tulane comes to a close, I'm sure we have all been reflecting on what our experience here has meant to us. Personally, my Tulane experience has meant everything to me. I remember applying to Tulane almost 5 years ago and being asked the essay question, why Tulane? In that essay, I wrote that where there is a will, there is a way. My will was and still is to become a medical doctor, and Tulane most certainly has been the way. An institution that fosters and engages the students through its many resources and opportunities. I also wrote in that essay that Tulane is the school for me because I needed to be at a place where there's always a challenge to be met, greatness to aspire to, and high standards to rise up to. I'm sure we all wanted to be at Tulane because we wanted a world-class education, a place that will inspire us to be the very best we could be and give us the best chance at getting to our desired destinations in life. As we stand here today, at the threshold of the rest of our lives, we should feel thankful, proud, and prepared. Tulane has given us all community, so much love, and a place to call home. Tulane is home. The people we have met at Tulane have taught us so much about ourselves, life, and about how to navigate the world. Tulane drives within us all a spirit to stand up when we see injustices and take action against it. Tulane has taught us that we are important, worthy, and have something valuable to contribute to this world. We should all walk away from this place knowing that our voices matter, our humanity matters, and we have a purpose in this world. In my first year at Tulane, I had the opportunity to work on the President's Commission on Race and Tulane Values, which seeks to craft reforms necessary to make Tulane a more inclusive community. While working on the commission, I got to know the Director of Admission, Jeff Schiffman, and I shared my experience with him about inequities in the admission process. A few weeks ago, I ran into him, and he told me that he remembered everything I said, and it has stayed with him. So much so that he's doing his work differently. And what I took away from that short conversation with him is something else we should all take away from Tulane. When you are championing worthy causes and attempting to impact change, it can sometimes be draining and discouraging. But that conversation with Mr. Schiffman reminded me that we must persevere. It matters to keep the doors that have been open for you open, and open more doors for the people coming behind you. It matters because when you have the courage to speak up, people will listen and change will happen. We have received so much from our time here, so we show gratitude to Tulane for the experience, for the opportunities, for the lessons, for the culture, and for the people. Being a student at Tulane has been a privilege that not everyone in the world gets to experience. A great privilege, and a gift more than any degrees we will ever receive. Let us therefore take our degrees, experiences, and life lessons and make the world a better place. You may begin. Thank you.
Those who are now to receive honorary degrees will be presented to Robin Foreman, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost. Martin Davies, Professor of Law and Chair of the Senate Committee for University Honors, will present the honorees. University Marshal Michael Hogue will escort the recipient to the podium.
Dean Barquet, you campaigned to teach the world never to turn a blind eye towards injustice. Your journalistic endeavors inspire us all with the strength and immense influence of the written word. As executive editor of the New York Times, you have pushed the most vital issues we face to the forefront of our nation's collective dialogue. When faced with career-defining choices, you supported your staff members and fought for their right to work. Your courage, character, and resolve challenges your hometown of New Orleans and the entire nation to look inward at the inequality, discrimination, and disparity that afflicts our society.
Dean Baquet, your career, from your time at the New Orleans State's Item to your Pulitzer Prize-winning journalism at the Chicago Tribune and ascension to the position of executive editor of the New York Times, has inspired a generation of journalists to work with integrity, persistence, and compassion. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Administrators and the President, and with the esteem of the entire Tulane community, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa, in token of which I hand you this diploma and hood of Tulane University.
Blythe Danner, the arc of your career defines what it is to be an entertainer. You have touched countless lives through film, television, theater, and conservation. Our world's young, aspiring artists look to your career for guidance and direction, and your body of work serves as an example of how to address fame with grace, morality, and warmth.
Blythe Danner, you've been honored at the apex of entertainment culture with a Tony Award and 2 Primetime Emmy Awards. Your contributions to the causes closest to your heart and family, the environment, healthcare, and cancer research, are further proof of your immense capacity for enacting enduring, positive change in a world that must move forward with compassion and global citizenry. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Administrators and the President, and with the esteem of the entire Tulane community, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa, in token of which we hand you this diploma and hood of Tulane University.
John Lewis, you are the essence of what American heroes are made of. Your ability to mobilize and organize communities is second to none. At the age of 21, you spearheaded the activist movement of the Freedom Riders, commanding international attention to our nation's moral progress and the welfare of its most vulnerable citizenry. You have continued, literally, to risk your life to provide a voice for those citizens who were forced into the margins of our society.
John Lewis, by gaining a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives in 1987, you transitioned your activism into large-scale systematic political and social reform, guided by honesty, morality, and unshakable courage. You have spent more than 32 years serving your constituents and the entire nation with unyielding audacity and decency. Your moral compass serves as a beacon for those in our great nation who seek justice, equality, and integrity. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Administrators and the President, and with the esteem of the entire Tulane community, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, in token of which we hand you this diploma and hood of Tulane University.
Timothy Cook, you are one of the most brilliant entrepreneurs of our time, whose work in the digital realm has been a steady and guiding force in the transformative world of technology for over 35 years. Your creative and comprehensive approach to business management, product supply chains, and revolutionary technology has transformed Apple into the archetype for success and innovation in the realm of technology and beyond.
Timothy Cook, your acute concern for our global community and steadfast support of the people within your organization serves as a shining example of humanity to the largest companies throughout the world. And your outspoken advocacy for equality in the workplace, be it race, gender, nationality, or sexual orientation, has led a paradigm shift in the way in which we view our culture's greatest resource, our people. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Administrators and the President, and with the esteem of the entire Tulane community, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, in token of which we hand you this diploma and hood of Tulane University.
It is now my honor to introduce Tulane University's 2019 commencement speaker. We're very lucky to have Mr. Tim Cook with us today. He's a busy man. If the news reports are to be believed, he starts working well before the sun comes up at 4:30 in the morning until well past sundown. Yet he still makes time for cycling and even hiking the mountains around Cupertino, which I'm certain he tracks on his Apple Watch while listening to his Apple Music on his Apple iPhone. As an avid hiker, Tim is no stranger to the mountains of life as well as life's valleys. He reached the summit in 2011 when he became CEO of Apple. The valley came in 1982, but not for him, for us, because he chose to attend Auburn instead of Tulane. Tim, let me just say, we still want you. In fact, we want you so badly, we're giving you a degree today. And from now on, we invite you to drop by any time. You can sit on any class that you want to attend. So Tim grew up just a few hours away from here on the Gulf Coast of Alabama. As I already mentioned, he attended Auburn University, where he received a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering, and he continued his education at Duke University, earning a Master's of Business Administration as a Fuqua Scholar. Now, I wonder if Tim knew at his graduation from Duke that he was literally destined to become the Alexander Graham Bell of our time. After Duke, Tim quickly climbed the ranks of the tech industry, joining Apple's senior leadership team in 1998. And today, he is the CEO of Apple, a company that has completely transformed the way people live. Now think about that for a second. In a world that depends on technology more and more every day, Tim's decisions affect all aspects of human life in matters of privacy, the pace of progress, even the nature of innovation itself. This requires that he confront some of the toughest and most fundamental issues of our time. And by all accounts, he's having a lasting impact, not only on privacy and technological innovation, but also in areas as broad as public health, sustainability, and diversity and inclusion. He is an example how one person makes a difference, first as a single note, then as a chord, crescendoing into a symphony of change. Tim expects a lot of himself, but he is pretty good at inspiring the rest of us as well. As he has said, history rarely yields to one person, but never forget what happens when it does. That can be you, that should be you, that must be you. It is my pleasure to introduce Tulane University's commencement speaker for 2019, the maestro himself, the CEO of Apple, Mr. Tim Cook.
Hello, Tulane! Thank you, President Fitz, Provost Foreman, distinguished faculty, other faculty, and the entire Tulane family, including the workers, ushers, volunteers who prepared this beautiful space. And I feel duty-bound to also recognize the hardworking bartenders at the booth. Though they're not here with us this morning, I'm sure some of you are reflecting on their contributions as well. And just as many of you have New Orleans in your veins, and perhaps your livers, some of us at Apple have New Orleans in our blood as well. When I was a student at Auburn, the Big Easy was our favorite getaway. It's amazing how quickly those 363 miles fly by when you're driving toward a weekend of beignets and beer, and how slowly they go in the opposite direction. Apple's own Lisa Jackson is a proud Tulane alum. Yes. She brought the green wave all the way to Cupertino, where she heads our environmental and public policy work. We're thrilled to have her talent and leadership on our team. Okay, enough about us. Let's talk about you. At moments like this, it always humbles me to watch a community come together to teach, mentor, advise, and finally say with one voice, congratulations to the class of 2019. Now there's another very important group, your family and friends. The people who, more than anyone else, loved, supported, and even sacrificed greatly to help you reach this moment. Let's give them a round of applause. This will be my first piece of advice. You might not appreciate until much later in your life how much this moment means to them, or how that bond of obligation, love, and duty between you matters more than anything else. In fact, that's what I really want to talk to you about today. In a world where we obsessively document our own lives, most of us don't pay nearly enough attention to what we owe one another. Now, this isn't just about calling your parents more, although I'm sure they'd be grateful if you did that. It's about recognizing that human civilization began when we realized that we could do more together, that the threats and danger outside the flickering firelight got smaller when we got bigger, and that we could create more prosperity, more beauty, more wisdom, and a better life when we acknowledge certain shared truths and acted collectively. Maybe I'm biased, but I've always thought the South, and the Gulf Coast in particular, have hung on to this wisdom better than most. In this part of the country, your neighbors check up on you if they haven't heard from you in a while. Good news travels fast because your victories are their victories too. And you can't make it through someone's front door before they offer you a home-cooked meal. Maybe you haven't thought about it very much, but these values have informed your Tulane education too. Just look at the motto: not for oneself, but for one's own. You've been fortunate to live, learn, and grow in a city where human currents blend into something magical and unexpected, where unmatched beauty, natural beauty, literary beauty, musical beauty, cultural beauty seem to spring unexpectedly from the bayou. The people of New Orleans used two tools to build this city: the unlikely and the impossible. Wherever you go, don't forget the lessons of this place. Life will always find lots of ways to tell you no, that you can't, that you shouldn't, that you'd be better off if you didn't try. But New Orleans teaches us there is nothing more beautiful or more worthwhile than trying, especially when we do it not in the service of oneself, but one's own. For me, it was that search for greater purpose that brought me to Apple in the first place. I had a comfortable job at a company called Compaq that at the time looked like it was going to be on top forever. As it turns out, most of you are probably too young to even remember its name. But in 1998, Steve Jobs convinced me to leave Compaq behind, to join a company that was on the verge of bankruptcy. They made computers, but at that moment at least, people weren't interested in buying them. Steve had a plan to change things, and I wanted to be a part of it. It wasn't just about the iMac or the iPod or everything that came after. It was about the values that brought these inventions to life. The idea that putting powerful tools in the hands of everyday people helps unleash creativity and move humanity forward. That we can build things that help us imagine a better world and then make it real. There's a saying that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. At Apple, I learned that's a total crock. You'll work harder than you ever thought possible, but the tools will feel light in your hands. As you go out into the world, don't waste time on problems that have been solved. Don't get hung up on what other people say is practical. Instead, steer your ship into the choppy seas. Look for the rough spots, the problems that seem too big, the complexities that other people are content to work around. It's in those places that you will find your purpose. It's there that you can make your greatest contribution. Whatever you do, don't make the mistake of being too cautious. Don't assume that by staying put, the ground won't move beneath your feet. The status quo simply won't last. So get to work on building something better. In some important ways, my generation has failed you in this regard. We spent too much time debating. We've been too focused on the fight and not focused enough on progress. And you don't need to look far to find an example of that failure. Here today, in this very place, in an arena where thousands once found desperate shelter from a 100-year disaster, the kind that seemed to be happening more and more frequently, I don't think we can talk about who we are as people and what we owe to one another without talking about climate change. Thank you. Thank you. This problem doesn't get any easier based on whose side wins or loses an election. It's about who has won life's lottery and has the luxury of ignoring this issue and who stands to lose everything. The coastal communities, including some right here in Louisiana, that are already making plans to leave behind the places they've called home for generations and head for higher ground. The fishermen whose nets come up empty. The wildlife preserves with less wildlife to preserve. The marginalized, for whom a natural disaster can mean enduring poverty. Just ask Tulane's own Molly Keogh, who's getting her PhD this weekend. Her important new research shows that rising sea levels are devastating areas of southern Louisiana more dramatically than anyone expected. Tulane graduates, these are people's homes, their livelihoods, the land where their grandparents were born, lived, and died. When we talk about climate change or any issue with human costs, and there are many, I challenge you to look for those who have the most to lose and find the real, true empathy that comes from something shared. That is really what we owe one another. When you do that, the political noise dies down, and you can feel your feet firmly planted on solid ground. After all, we don't build monuments to trolls, and we're not going to start now. If you find yourself spending more time fighting than getting to work, stop and ask yourself who benefits from all the chaos. There are some who would like you to believe that the only way you can be strong is by bulldozing those who disagree, or never giving them a chance to say their piece in the first place. That the only way you can build your own accomplishments is by tearing down the other side. We forget sometimes that our pre-existing beliefs have their own force of gravity. Today, certain algorithms pull toward you the things you already know, believe, or like, and they push away everything else. Push back. It shouldn't be this way. But in 2019, opening your eyes and seeing things in a new way can be a revolutionary act. summon the courage not just to hear, but to listen. Not just to act, but to act together. It can sometimes feel like the odds are stacked against you, that it isn't worth it, that the critics are too persistent and the problems are too great. But the solution to our problems begin on a human scale, with building a shared understanding of the work ahead and with undertaking it together. At the very least, we owe it to each other to try. It's worked before. In 1932, the American economy was in a free fall. 12 million people were unemployed, and conventional wisdom said the only thing to do was ride it out. Wait, and hope that things would turn around. But the governor of New York, a rising star named Franklin Roosevelt, refused to wait. He challenged the status quo and called for action. He needed people to stop their rosy thinking, face the facts, pull together, and help themselves out of a jam. He said, "The country demands bold, persistent experimentation. It is common sense to take a method and try it. If it fails, admit it and try another. But above all, try something." This was a speech to college students fearful about their future in an uncertain world. He said, "Yours is not the task of making your way in the world, but the task of remaking the world." The audacious empathy of young people, the spirit that says we should live not just for ourselves, but for our own, that's the way forward. From climate change to immigration, from criminal justice reform to economic opportunity, be motivated by your duty to build a better world. Young people have changed the course of history time and time again. And now it's time to change it once more. I know the urgency of that truth is with you today. Feel big, because no one can make you feel small. Feel brave, because the challenges we face are great, but you are greater. And feel grateful, because someone sacrificed to make this moment possible for you. You have clear eyes and a long life to use them. And here in the stadium, I can feel your courage. Call upon your grit. Try something. You may succeed. You may fail. But make it your life's work to remake the world. Because there is nothing more beautiful or worthwhile than working to leave something better for humanity. Thank you very much, and congratulations, class of 2019. Woo, thank you. Thank you.
Kelly Grant, Interim Dean of Newcomb Tulane College, will now present the honorees for undergraduate teaching.
It is my pleasure to